What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Realistic Career Mode. This is episode number 45. We're starting today's stuff on the back of the win over Brentford 3-2 at the G-Tech, and of course the big Community Shield win over Manchester City as well. £30 million in our budget after the incomings and the outgoings, and in the last episode we saw Dele Alli offered back to us from Aston Villa after 6 months of Villa Park. Obviously turned that one down for the realism there. But I thought this was a little bit more realistic than the first two offers we'd had, and especially the first offer coming from Barcelona. Conor Coady approached by Leeds United, and in the end, whilst I did try and get a bit more money for the former Wolves and Liverpool man, in the end I could only manage 17.5 mil, his market valuation. It's always a bit of a, I'm not sure what the word is here, but it's a bit like, it kind of hurts your ego a little bit when you can't even get a penny extra. Do you know what I mean? It's always like you go into negotiation like, oh yeah, I'm going to strong arm this bloke. Literally, I just get nothing. I can literally get absolutely nothing but the valuation itself. But listen, I'll take it. 17.5 mil for Conor Coady. That now raised our budget up to around £45 million with wage budget considerations as well. And I'll take it. You know, I said, obviously, to start this season off, we've got to get a little bit younger. There's quite a few players in their 30s here. And don't get me wrong, you know me. I love the experience. I love the dressing room leaders. But sometimes, I know it sounds a bit funny, but sometimes you can have a bit like one too many of those. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you can have too many leaders. Sometimes you can have too many kind of like, I'm not sure the word is here, but sort of like I guess leaders, you know, the ones that think they're head honcho. Sometimes you need to have a few younger players to learn under them as well. So Coady gone, Leeds United. I thought quite a realistic destination there. And for, in the end, 17.5 mil. I walked out that negotiation. Do you remember, have you watched The Simpsons when Homer, it's Itchy and Scratchy Land. For those who watch Simpsons, you'll know the episode. Itchy and Scratchy Land, the end of the episode is a compensation for the terror that the Simpson family have put through. The founder of the park, Roger Myers, says to Homer, like, as an apology, here are 2 free passes. Homer goes, yeah, but there's 5 of us. And then he goes, here are 2 free passes. That's better. That's kind of how I felt. It's like, no, I want 19 mil, 17.5 mil. All right, how about 18 and a quarter, 17.5 mil. Yeah, I'll take 17.5 mil, yes. It's always a bit of an ego damaging moment there. Anyway, first game of today's episode on the back of the sale there of Coady to Leeds United, taking on West Ham. David Moyes, of course, a bit of a club icon. Everton, of course, then leaving for that one season at Manchester United. Things have been a lot different since they're now in charge of West Ham, of course. This season, you know, obviously West Ham has struggled mightily, only just above the drop zone. You think back to last year where, you know, for a large part of the, particularly second half of the season, there was a genuine chance they could finish in a Champions League spot. Yes, it was unlikely, but there was an outside shot. And lest we forget, they got to the Europa League semi-finals last year, only losing to the eventual winners Frankfurt over 2 legs as well. I think sometimes, you know, in terms of football, sometimes fans can have quite short memories. I think David Moyes, and don't forget, this is his second stint at West Ham, was where he left, and he decided to come back after he was replaced. Give the guy some credit, man. I think he deserves a lot more credit than he's got. And again, they're in the Europa League quarterfinals this year as well. Yes, fair enough, last 16, easy path to get there, but you can only beat what's in front of you. You know, I think David Moyes got a bit too much criticism this year. Yes, of course, they should be doing better in the league. No one's going to deny that, but 2 European quarterfinals in 2 years for West Ham, I think that's pretty good going, in my opinion, for David Moyes there. And I guess you know me, I've always been a big David Moyes fan. But even so, he held on to win 2-1 despite conceding late there. Big save by Pickford bailing me out. And after that, we had the Europa League group draw in Group G, AZ Alkmaar, Anderlecht, and Derry City as well. By the way, for those curious about the Champions League qualification, we see it here. There are 5 teams in the Champions League. There's us. There's Everton. Sorry, we're Everton. There's us. There's Manchester United as well, and Newcastle in the Europa League, and West Ham are in the Europa Conference League. So 5 in Champions League, 3 of us in the Europa League, and also West Ham in the Europa Conference League as well. That's absolutely mad. There are 9 English teams in European competitions this year. That is utterly mind-blowing. 9 teams in European competitions after the bizarre season we saw last year, where of course we won the FA Cup and finished in 6th, but lest we forget, despite the top 4 being set, Spurs won the Champions League despite finishing 5th, Newcastle won the Europa Conference League, and Arsenal won the Europa League. Just a crazy, crazy season last year for European qualification. So 9 teams in the European competition this year. Appreciate those who did try and work out what was going to happen, but Man, it was just bizarre. I'd never seen anything like it before. Can you imagine if Brentford won the Carabao Cup? What would have happened then? Got no idea. Anyway, second game of today's episode. Aston Villa away, Villa Park taking on Unai Emery's side heading into the game. Obviously fell behind early. Cameron Archer with the opening goal, levelled it straight afterwards. Callum Hudson-Odoi making it 1-1. 65 minutes in, still tied at 1-1. They get in front for the first time in the game, and last year's Golden Boot winner once again off to a decent start this year. Romelu Lukaku does the Charles Bull Matador celebration. What a throwback there as he makes it 2-1, and we get in front for the first time in the game. And you know, this season obviously you would have seen we added Ryan Sessegnon to our side. Obviously we've converted him from left wing back to right wing in this team as an inside forward, though at the moment I'm still preferring Mavididi, who last year was just sublime for us in you know, what I call inconsistent game time. But you know, Lukaku and Hudson-Odoi last year, two of my top scorers. Hudson-Odoi played more times than anyone else in terms of outfield players. Those two have just been unbelievable since we signed them both, man. Absolutely incredible. We're loving the ex-Chelsea boys in this team. Conor Gallagher as well, of course, and we're loving that. And in the 90th minute here, after Villa tied it to make it 2-2, final chance fell in stoppage time. And I mentioned just a moment ago there, man, like Steffi Mavididi. I tell you what, doesn't it feel great when you have players on the fringes of your team and you think, oh, I've just got to keep sticking with him. I know he's going to come good. I know he's going to come good. And he does. That is Steffi Mavididi for me. If you watch my Nottingham Forest career mode earlier this year, that was Donny van der Beek. Donny van der Beek, who was rubbish, and then he popped up with a leveller in the Europa League final, which we won on pens with like the final kick of the game. It was unbelievable, like 0 to hero turnaround. Steffi Mavididi has been that kind of guy, man. For me at the start, I was like, oh, I'm not really feeling it. I only got him because we wanted to put Anthony Gordon on Newcastle United's team for the realism. But Steffi Mavididi, after a struggling first year, he's been brilliant since then, man. Absolutely amazing. And finally, persistence pays off. I love that saying. It definitely has for Mavididi. Picks up the game winner there right at the death. So, yep, 3-2. Everton, we win it, and our unbeaten and 100% starts the season continues here. Really, really pleased with that because still a very long way to go. So it's transfer deadline day will come round again on the back of the sale of Conor Cody, around 45 million in the budget. Didn't really plan to do anything in terms of outgoings on deadline day. We did get a loan off of Jared Branthwaite, who's been out on loan since the save began, and RC Lens put an offer in. Obviously, this guy, no stranger to playing abroad, as we know, that loan spell at PSV Eindhoven, but there just wasn't enough time on the clock. Don't you just hate it when like a bid comes in with like 3 hours to go? It's like, where were you when the clock started ticking? Do you know what I mean? You had 7 hours. And now you put the offer in. Now, I wouldn't mind if you could do it within the space of 3 hours. But that's one thing that I think that, like, to me, deadline day needs changing. Like, don't get me wrong, I like the system of 10 hours. It adds to the intensity of the clock. Back in the day, you didn't used to be able to do all the negotiations in 1 hour. Now you can. So it kind of, in terms of incomings, it kind of doesn't really, you know, make you panic anymore because you can do it all in the final hour. Like in the final hour, you can sign 12 players if you want to. That's not a problem. But like for me, when it comes to the outgoings, like that's one thing I do wish that the game would understand. Like, there needs to be urgency. If there's 10 hours to go, fine, take a few hours, come back, think about it, then we'll talk about it again with 6 or 5 hours to go. But when there's like 2 hours on the clock and you put a loan deal in, and it's like, what is taking so long? Like, seriously, why is it taking so long to realise or decide whether you want to take Jared Branthwaite on a short-term loan deal or not? It shouldn't take you 2 hours to decide that, do you know what I mean? But anyway, I did decide to make a signing with, again, about 2 hours to go. We were looking for a new holding mid on the back of the sale of Conor Cody. I had loads of names on the shortlist. Now, I'll be honest, this guy wasn't my first choice. I really, really wanted Ryan Gravenberch, but obviously a little bit out of my price range right now. I'd say he's moved on to a club we could compete with right now for stature and size and European qualification as well, but a little bit out of my price range. But there were a few others that were in my price range, but I thought, do you know what, I've signed Wilfred Ndidi and like so many saves before, and whilst I have signed this guy before as well, I really like him. You know, I really, really like him. Weston McKennie is in, and I like his signing as well. And one of the reasons I chose McKennie too is because you would have seen there the other bill was from Crystal Palace, and so if McKennie was to leave, you'd expect him to stay at a European club. You know, he signed it from Newcastle. They're in the Europa Conference League. So if he was going to choose between the two clubs here, us or Crystal Palace, well, we're in the Europa League right now. Last year we ended our trophy drought, won the FA Cup. We're trying to retain the FA Cup this year, trying to win the Europa League this year, trying to get into the top four. If McKennie's going to choose a team and leave Newcastle, a European side themselves right now, albeit the Europa Conference League, chances I'd probably choose to step up and go to the Europa League as opposed to take a step down. Why would he take a step down? He's 84 rated, he's in the prime of his career right now at 27 years old. Why would he take a step down, leave Newcastle, Europa Conference League team, and then go to a team who last year were mid-table? It doesn't make sense. So for the realism, I thought it was probably the best realistic offer I could do there. Sign a player from a club who are in a lesser competition than ours right now, as of course last year we qualified for the Europa League, Newcastle, Europa Conference League. No, sorry. Newcastle won. Sorry, what am I talking about? Newcastle won the Europa Conference League last year. They're in the Europa League, but even so, it's staying on the same level as opposed to taking a step back. My mistake. Those European qualifications, ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. As is this, following that with Tom Davies turned down, but also Jared Brandthwaite. Lons came back. RC Lons came out with an hour to go, and I was like, What do you expect me to do in an hour? Like, what do you expect me to do? We can't do this in an hour because you took 2 hours deciding whether you wanted Jared Brandthwaite on loan or not. I can't do anything with that, so I might as well turn it down. That's one thing I hope EA look into as the future FIFAs go on. Like, if a club's going to put a bid in, they need to show more urgency. You can't offer to take one of the players out on loan with 3 hours to go and expect to get the deal done. It takes way too long. So they've got to speed things up, man, and try and do things, if not within the hour, then 1 hour max. Anyway, deadline day comes to a close. This is our team between now and January, probably for the season as well, and I've got to be honest here, I really like it. Squad depth, yeah, great bench, and an amazing first 11. We're a 5-star team now, and I said at the start of the season, and I'll say it again, this year, it is Champions League plus silverware or bust. If we failed to get this team in the top 4, we've definitely failed big time. Perfect start for the Toffees, 3 wins from 3, second place only behind the Red Devils. That will end today's episode of the Realistic Career, guys. Big thank you for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. If you haven't, like, much love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you for the next episode of the Realistic Career Mode. Very soon.